Hello, everyone. Ben Coleman back with you here at the Reno Air Races 2018. One of your many hosts for the Florida Aviation Network. Hello, Obi, and all of our fans and our crowds back there. We're here at the STEM education tent, and with the gentleman that's actually responsible for making all of this happen, Mr. Reza Karamooz.
Hi, how are you?
Doing
Glad you
good.
guys could stop by and check out to see what we're doing here.
Well, Reza, I tell you, it's the reason we're here is because the future of aviation is in your hands.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but we certainly are doing our part to help create a pipeline of students that are interested in aviation, aerospace, and drones, and all the different things that are related to our industry's future.
Well, and we talked a little bit earlier about your passion, and you're basically a businessman with an aviation interest for the right reasons. I mean, we can use aircraft to make money. We can use aircraft to increase our quality of life, save time. NetJets is one of them, and there's another jet I think called Lucky.
Lucky Jets, yeah. So Lucky Jets is a company I started over a decade ago, and the purpose was to serve the Las Vegas charter jet brokerage business. It's a very unique market. And what I learned is when I started working with Nevada stakeholders and just in the industry of aviation, that we didn't really have a group together. We didn't have a coalition. We didn't have a pipeline to bring students as interns or as apprentices into our industry here. So we started by adopting a high school and starting an aviation club there, and our team won the National Aviation Design Challenge in 2014 from the GAMA puts on. GAMA is the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. So we won that championship, and this year we have actually the 2018 GAMA Aviation Design Challenge winning airplane here in the pits at the Reno Air Races, and the company who sponsored that plane is called ClickBond, which is a Nevada company, and ClickBond is here in our tent as one of our sponsors. So there's a lot of good things going on, a lot of good activity. A lot of schools are looking at STEM education. Our program here is called the STEM Education Discovery Zone. So we have one tent filled with flight simulators. We have a center tent filled with robots. We have this tent here that we're interviewing in, and it's filled with all kinds of cool technology, hands-on programs, and also some cool things like you get to sign your name on a cardboard laser cut F-16. You get to sign your name on it. It's pretty cool. You get to paint our mural of the Reno Air Races 2018. Those things are going to go in our archives, and I think a lot of these youth coming through, they're going to remember these experiences they've had here. By Sunday, we will probably have about 10,000 students go through our program, and the way I put it is 10,000 students are going to go through the program, 10,000 lives will have changed. They will have seen something that triggered something, and 2 decades from now, or a decade from now in some cases, you'll ask them, why are you a pilot? Why are you an engineer? Why'd you go in this business? Why are you designing rockets? And how'd you become a rocket scientist? Oh, because I took my picture in that cutout rocket at the STEM education program that my field trip took me to when I was in high school. So, that's kind of what we're hoping for.
Reza, that's what we call is setting the hook. And you're doing an excellent job. I just noticed you have your passport for Grady and, of course, Grad.
NVBAA. That's our program here. That's our two companies.
Watch how our cameraman zooms right in on that for folks. This is probably available online.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot of this stuff online after the races. And something that we have that's very cool this year is we have 6 aviation collector cards. So every student that comes through here gets a passport. On the back of the passport, there are 8 different things that they need to experience. We want them to experience. Fly on the flight simulators, drive the robots, collect your aviation collector cards, grab your free F-86 3D printed jet. So this is a bigger version. Every student gets to take a small version of this F-86 home with a card that explains what an F-86 was. We want them to visit the military display. We have a beautiful military display here of aircraft, and we have a beautiful pit area where all the teams are working on their planes, and they can go and see that and kind of get close to the teams, ask questions. And then we have the Grad AR app that's a augmented reality app. So this year what we did is we took our 6 aviation collector cards and we made them augmented reality compatible. That means that when you grab the app and you put it against the car, the 3D model of that plane's going to pop up, and you can hit a button and rotate that plane. You can use your finger to move it around. You can zoom in on it and look at the landing gear. You can do a lot of different things. This kind of stuff is cool in the eyes of the youth. This is what they're going to do tomorrow in school. They're going to take that card and tell their friend, check this out. That's what we want. We want them to be the ambassadors.
Well, Reza, as a matter of fact, our David Block is our camera guy and also the producer. As we were talking about that, he just dropped in a beautiful B-roll of what you were showing us, the actual thing going on earlier. So
yeah, that's right. You guys got a little video of that. Yeah. It's very cool. You know, when they see it, when the kids see that, they can't unsee it. No. You know, they're like, how does that work? Yeah. They're going to go find out how that works.
I hope they do, and I hope they also realize that learning about aviation, it's an entirely different language rather than. But we need engineers. We need processors. We need program writers. We need pilots. We need mechanics.
Yep. And you know, it's interesting because the aviation of the past, sort of legacy, it was pilots, mechanic, engineers. You know, that was our three major paths. But we have air traffic controllers, we have airport managers, we have ground folks, you know, we have flight dispatch people. We have all of these different sort of verticals that nobody knows about. Our business is kind of invisible. It just happens. You know, you get on a plane, you go from point A to point B, everything's great, especially when you fly in America, and you know you're going to take off, you know you're going to land, everything's going to be great. But what we are now experiencing is with drones coming into aviation as very much a part of the future, and unmanned systems coming in, now you've got data link people, you got cyber security people, you got programmers, you got all these different sort of lines of work that existed, but now they exist in our environment.
Reza, I tell you what, we're going to take a short intermission, right, and we're going to come back and talk about grad.
Okay, sounds good.
But I tell you, for the STEM activity and for the Nevada National Business Aviation Association, I still want to say NBAA.
Well, you can say NVBAA.
It is NVBAA, but will you be at NBAA?
Not this year in Orlando, but we have a big program on odd number years. NBAA's here down in Las Vegas. That's our home base. We bring, last time in 17, we brought 600 students on the Thursday of NBAA. It's always the Student and Business Aviation Day. We brought 600 students. We had a great keynote speaker. All the students get to go through the convention floor. And of course, we have an amazing static display at Henderson Executive Airport. And we hope they all can make it there too.
Well, Reza, you got to front load it, and you're front loading it. I'm so glad that we're able to talk about this. And let's come back after our intermission and talk about grad.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right.
Thanks. I'm Ben Coleman, and we're going to take a brief intermission. Don't go away. We're going to come back and talk about grad. Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts for Florida Aviation Network, and we're back here at the STEM Education Area Discovery Zone with Reza. And Reza, tell us a little bit more. We just broke with Reza, but now we're going to talk about GRAD.
All right. So GRAD stands for Global Robot and Drone Deployment. So really what I saw in the industry happening about 6 years ago is we're going to move in the direction of autonomous systems. We're going to move in the direction of flying robots we call drones, or remotely piloted aircraft. And what I realized is that instead of flying a manned aircraft over a field, you know, to try to fly LiDAR or other, you know, sensors on it, in some cases we get to fly the drones. Well, that's a whole new industry. That's a whole new endeavor, and something that in the civilian side we're really not that familiar with. So I thought, you know, I need to head in that direction. I like this, especially for what we can bring in a pipeline and youth and the excitement we can build around it. So I built this company a little over 4 years ago, Global Robot and Drone Deployment. And today, you know, we have signed, you know, you guys are from Florida, we've signed an MOU with Embry-Riddle to use some of our software. So we come at it from a data analytics way. Like, okay, you're flying over whatever, you know, you're trying to survey some land, or you're trying to fly over solar farms to identify hotspots or issues. What kind of sensor are you going to fly over it? How are you going to collect that data? How much data? How are you going to process it? That's what we do. So we've come up with, we have 4 different software programs we can use to analyze data that's collected from drones. It could also be collected from aircraft. You know, we're sort of agnostic to how you collect data. But now we're also kind of taking those learning modules and we're taking it down to the school level and creating education programs. So one of the things we did in 2017 is we created 3D Modeling 101 education curriculum for Intel Corporation, which is pretty cool. Because, when you talk about visualization, when you take our Aviation collector card, which is a printed card, looks like a baseball card, and then you put your app over it and a model of a plane in 3D pops up, you're like, okay, we're going somewhere with this. This is cool, and this is actually useful in industry. So if I am walking up to an aircraft and I'm a pilot who's newly type rated on a certain aircraft, so my familiarity is not through the roof. I'm familiar enough to get my type rating. So I go up to this thing and I can hold my phone up, say, to the landing gear, and something pops up and I can rotate it and zoom in and click on something, download a PDF, hear an audio, watch a video. That's a really cool capability, and that's really what we're looking at going forward. So when you look at that, sensors, robots, drones, all of these things coming into our industry to expand our capabilities. We're talking right here in Nevada, drones have delivered packages. We've done a lot of testing in that. Beyond visual line of sight operations, night operations, all those kinds of things are happening right here in Nevada, where our whole state is an FAA UAS test site. So right here in Reno is one of the new 10 designated test sites, working with NASA and doing the UTM and all the other things that we're doing here. So, it's been going great. We love it. The kids love it. Our interns love it. Our partners love it. We are a partner with FLIR cameras and Leica Geosystems and Sony professional cameras. So, we've created some really good partnerships and links so we can be integrating solutions that incorporate all of that stuff. Hardware, software solutions, also data services, analytics. We can fly the drones, capture the data if someone needs it. So that's what GRAD is and what GRAD does. So,
well, Reza, I tell you, when the internet first started, and we're old enough, we remember when internet.
I remember
internet. What's internet?
Well, what is internet?
But I was told it was the information superhighway. I said, well, what the heck does that mean? Now it's an integral part of business in our life, and that technology. And somebody said drones. What? They're just toys. What the hell are we going to do with drones?
And it's kind of started that way, and a lot of people, like a couple Christmases ago, everyone went out and bought a drone, and they realized it's not as easy to fly, or it's not as easy to become an expert at it. So some of those have been sold or crashed. You fly. It's kind of like when you started your RC career, flying RC planes. Yeah, day one, you're gonna get to a point where you can't duct tape anymore, and then that might be your last day of RC flying. Similar things with drones, except drones don't glide. So when the power goes out, or if you have some glitch, they come down somewhere, either in a lake or a pool or a tree or somewhere. So hopefully not, but now we've gotten to the point where the platforms are more sophisticated, they're more reliable, there's more safety sort of systems in them, sense and avoid, sensors in them. And also people have realized, oh my God, I can do some cool stuff with this thing. It's a simple enough small package, inexpensive, but I can actually do professional operations with this thing. And I think that's the exciting part. As of now, the FAA has given out about 103,000 Part 107 certificates. That's 103,000 pilots that can fly drones in the USA. I mean, that's pretty awesome when you think about it.
My segue with the information superhighway and drones is it's going to take on, it already has taken on a life of its own, but drones being used for information gathering, surveillance, reconnaissance, those type of things can be done a lot more economical and a lot better actually with an unmanned aircraft as opposed to having somebody up there flying around the sky.
And a lot safer. When you think about all the forest fires we're having and being able to fly a drone out there and kind of scope it and figure out which way it's going and how it's progressing and figure out your attack plan in a safer way, not putting any people in harm's way. Also, if you're doing surveillance or reconnaissance, and we've also at GRAD created certain brackets we can mount on drones so you can carry multiple sensors on one small drone. And we sell that to law enforcement across the country. And we had one law enforcement agency from Ohio call up and say, hey, you guys probably saving lives, because when we carry that thermal camera and we can do, look for the bad guys in the woods, it saves our officers from having to go in there. We locate him, we know where he is, we know how to approach this person, and we just had that happen a couple weeks ago. So, when you think about it, it just makes you that much more agile and that much more capable and responsive. You can carry a drone in a backpack. Let's say you're searching for a hiker that got, lost in the woods or fell down a side of a cliff, how are you going to look for them? A helicopter, that's typically what you do. You fly a helicopter, winds are bad, oh no, we can't fly. But you can take that backpack with a drone, a couple of folks can go up and they can grid that area so they don't miss anything. And they can put a thermal camera, they can put a RGB, like a regular sensor on there, and they can look around. It's very cool when you think about the kinds of cool stuff we can do.
And they can spot that and get the lat line, and it will go back exactly to that same position every time. The Reza, it's the things with the drones is, and like a lot of people say, the FAA, they regulate aviation. Well, but they do, but really it's a self-regulating industry because the FAA isn't in every hangar. It's not doing every ramp check. It's a really self-regulating. That's why I encourage the drone enthusiasts like yourself to, when you see something that looks or smells not quite right, take action on it.
Right, yeah, definitely. If you see something, say something, because if someone does something foolish with a drone, it's bad for everybody who is in the business. We're professional drone operators. A lot of our folks have Part 107s. We do a pre-flight checklist. Even though Part 107 doesn't require a visual observer, if we're on a job, there is a visual observer. Pilot is piloting the aircraft. Visual observer never takes their eye off the drone. If anyone's been out there and done anything of any size or magnitude, they know if you lose that drone in the sky, you're never going to find it again until it crashes, I guess. But there are certain things that we have to all be diligent about, but I think there's a lot of amazing opportunity. One of the things we do is when we talk to youth, we talk about exactly what you brought up. Might be a fun toy, but guess what? If you walk out in your backyard, anywhere in the USA, and you take that drone off the ground 1 inch, you're in this thing we call the National Airspace System, and it's in the FAA jurisdiction. You are now having to abide by those rules. Doesn't matter if it's your backyard, it's your toy, and you're doing it for fun. That's not how it works. In fact, it very well could be in your backyard you cannot fly because of the airspace you're in or other restrictions that are in that airspace. So they don't recognize that. A lot of people don't. And a lot of people ask these questions like, if a drone flies over my house, can I shoot it down? No, you can't. It's an aircraft. In the eyes of the FAA, in the eyes of the government, that's an aircraft, and you are now committing a crime by trying to harm that aircraft from doing its thing. So there's a lot of information that we as an industry need to get out there and just make sure that everyone understands these are professional pieces of equipment that you happen to be able to buy. Click on Amazon, it shows up on your doorstep, you're not a pilot. That's not how it works. So, read the manual, do some testing, calibrate it, make sure the firmware's running, make sure all those three components that have to talk nice to each other, the drone, the controller, and the iPad or whatever you're using for your mission planning are on the same wavelength, so to speak, literally. So there's just a lot that has to be done to conduct those safe operations.
Well, and I hope that the youth and our adults that are steering our youth, they say, well, why? I want to go out and do this. Well, you can't do that. Well, why? Because it's against the rules. But why? It's just against the rules. Listen to me. Explain to them what the rule is developed for and what it's there to protect everyone from. Not just, you can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's cool is Part 107 requires, it's basically an airspace knowledge test. It's not a drone pilot exploration operational test. You never have to show the FAA you can fly this drone. You have to show them you understand airspace rules, and human factors, pilot fatigue and all that stuff. And you also understand weather. So before you fly, what are the winds going to be like when you plan to fly tomorrow? What's the visibility going to be like? What's the airspace? Is there some kind of a TFR? Is there some kind of something that doesn't usually exist in that airspace that tomorrow might? So those are the things that I think 103,000 people have now shown to the FAA. I have a pretty good understanding of that. That's 103,000 more than we had 2 years ago. It's only been 2 years since they opened the door on Part 107.
Reza, that's about a fifth of the number of certified pilots that we have in our system. People don't realize how small our industry is. It's a sliver of the population. Roughly 600,000 pilots, certified pilots in our system in the U.S. But that's not a lot of people when you're talking about our population.
Yeah, 320 or whatever million people we have. It's a very, very small population. What's cool about our industry, aviation industry, is aviation aerospace as a whole, it's an exact industry. It's the most regulated. The reason why in America we enjoy the safest airspace in the world is because we have rules and people stick to the rules, and we have all kinds of checks. If an aircraft mechanic puts a part in your aircraft, the part was certified, the mechanic's certified, the shop is certified, the plane is certified, everything is checked all along the way. And that's the kind of appreciation that pilots have, and the discipline to say, you know what, I understand that, I'm going to stick to that. If I do someday, if I do something a little bit wrong, I enter some airspace I shouldn't have, I'm going to report that. I'm going to let them know, because that self-reporting helps the FAA understand maybe some things aren't right on their part. Maybe some of that airspace stuff, or maybe the approaches, or maybe something about that airport isn't set up, and pilots are having an issue with understanding something about it. And that makes the system safer, it makes the system run better.
That all builds to what I call the safety culture. And if you implant the safety culture in all the kids that are running around here, that if you implant it, it's the law of primacy. If you learn it the right way the first time, you'll remember it the right way every time. But there's some folks out there that they still want to be renegades, and we're going to have renegades in society, but we need to find a way to turn those renegades around to know why that they're doing something that complies with a rule or a standard.
And I think that's something when they appreciate it, and they know, if they appreciate how someone doing what they're about to do, if it were someone else doing it, how it could possibly impact their safety or their operation, they'll be like, you know what, I might think twice about what I was thinking, because I can see how that could, but they got to figure that out, and they got to be explained to in a kind of a civilized manner. You can't harp at them and say, well, don't do that, or whatever. They got to understand the basic rules of why that structure was set in place. So, I had a friend of mine call and say, hey, there's drones flying over my house. What can I do about it? I said, well, A, they may illegally be flying over your house, because they can fly up to 400 feet, and depending on where you live in this country, some localities have put in rules where you can't fly over private property from ground to, say, 250 feet. Well, then technically you can fly from 250 to 400, and you're not breaking any rules. Well, that's the system. And if you don't like the system, then maybe you can file a complaint, but that is by law what a person could do, depending on the airspace and all the other things that go into it. But they could fly somewhere over your house. It could be completely illegal. So those are things that people need to understand.
Well, and actually that's where it's kind of being proactive is if you don't like, well, that's Johnny and Sally's kid flying that drone. Go see Johnny and Sally. Ask, would you mind, please? Would you mind? No, don't fly over my house. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk to little Harry and we'll do.
And that's all. And a lot of times, no one's doing something maliciously. It's not knowing that you've gone, because when you fly in a drone, anyone's done it. You fly out there, you don't know if it tells you on the controller, but if you didn't know that information that you're 984 feet from the drone, if I asked you, hey, how far is that drone from you right now? You're like, I don't know, a few hundred feet. You're not going to tell me it's exactly 984 feet. So you may not know visually that you're over someone else's property, and if had you known, maybe you would say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not knowingly going to do something that's going to disturb my neighbors. So that's a part of just education and really just making sure everyone's a good neighbor. And like you said, just give a nudge, say, look, you're flying over here. I know you probably have the legal right to do it, but I'd rather you didn't. No, sorry.
Well, Reza, I tell you, I'm encouraged because I didn't know all this was going on out here, but now, and I'm seeing professionals such as yourself that's taken the charge to get out and make a difference in this, and that's I'm encouraged, and I hope that Obi, you and all the folks that are watching this, take it to heart, and I'm sure Grad is on the internet.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure NVBAA.
NVBAA.org. Yep. So it's go online. There's a ton of information. You can contact us if you have questions. If you want to bring some of the kinds of things we do to your neighborhood, to your air show, to your whatever, just contact us, and we'll help you. We'll kind of give you some direction. We've done it a couple times, so we know how to do it.
And I encourage you to make it duplicatable, because if you can make it easily duplicated, this is why I would like to do this in my community. Here's a package.
Yep. And that. Actually, this year you bring up a great point. This year our objective was make it so that when someone comes here, teacher, administrator, parent, and they say, that's cool, I want to do that at home, I want to do it in my classroom, we have a cookbook for it. Where to buy the parts, how long is it going to take you to put together, what kind of skill set do you need to do it, and how much is it going to cost you.
That's great, Reza. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time, boy. Thank you guys for coming in and spending time to learn about this thing. So hopefully we can get this thing going in Florida.
I've got a feeling we're going to be seeing more of this man, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we're going to sign this interview off, and wow, this was a two-parter. This guy has a lot of information in his noggin, so we'll see you next interview. Ben Coleman, Florida Aviation Network. See you.